Hey there fellow cake friends, and welcome to this week's tutorial. Today I have a wafer paper tutorial for you which has been highly requested, so I'm very excited to bring it to you today. We are going to make a wafer paper palm leaf. We're going to go through all the steps from coloring a wafer paper to cutting it and then attaching it onto the wire. I'm still learning about wafer paper too, so let's do this together. And if you do want to see more videos, please don't forget to subscribe and give me a thumbs up when you're ready to go, and let's get to the tutorial. We're starting with a regular piece of white wafer paper. I've marked it softly with pencil. I'm going to have a template for you to print out in the description box below so you can get the same markings as I have here. I'll start by cutting along the diagonal line, then I will cut along the middle line, and finally the right line. You'll see what I'm doing with these three pieces in just a minute, but in the meantime, you can keep the rightmost piece of wafer paper aside. We won't be using it for this project. So you'll have three pieces of wafer paper to work with, two that are cut on a diagonal and one straight one. And we're going to start painting the straight one first. I have a plastic palette and I'll put a bit of the three colors that I'm using in separate wells. I'm starting with olive green, which is a nice warm green color. Next is holly green, which is a really intense deep green color. And finally, eucalyptus, which is a cool blue-green color. I'm using a mix of 3/4 vodka and 1/4 water because my kitchen isn't very humid today. If yours is, you can use 100% vodka instead. I'll just pour a touch of that mixture into each of my wells with the colors, and I'll also grab a paper towel to check if I'm happy with the amount I've diluted each one. So I'll just make little swatches on there. I'm only going to use one brush since I'm going to end up blending all the colors anyway, so I'll start with the olive green. I'm just mixing it up and brushing a bit onto my paper towel once all of it has been diluted properly into the vodka water mixture. Next, I'll move to the holly green. I'm giving it a good mix, and then I will test it out on this paper towel as well. This one is a touch too dark. I'm going to dilute it more after. But first, I will test out the eucalyptus to see if I'm happy with it. I think that one looks good just as it is, so I'll go ahead and dilute the holly green a little bit just to lighten up the color, and then I'll check it one more time. And once you're happy with all of your colors, you can start painting your wafer paper. We're cutting the leaves widthwise, so I'm going to paint widthwise so the brush strokes will all follow the lines of the leaves. I'm going to use the holly green as the main color and the others to add accent colors and variation. So I'm just brushing the holly green back and forth, being sure not to oversaturate my paper too much or else it can start to dissolve and get really sticky on you. All I'm doing is coloring it evenly and leaving a few blank areas in which I can add my accent colors. I'll next brush some eucalyptus in the same direction, just trying to make this look natural and varied, just like a real leaf would look. So I'm just looking for those little spaces that have some white spots, and I'll fill those in with the eucalyptus, and now I'm going for the olive green and just filling more of those spaces in. I'll just switch back and forth between all the colors until the whole surface is colored nicely. Tell me if you have experimented at all with wafer paper. I would love to hear which flowers you've tried so far or leaves. I'm just getting started myself, so I would love some suggestions. Please leave them in the comments below. Make sure your paper isn't sticking, so just peel it off your surface, and then you can grab a fluffy brush and I'll pat cornstarch onto the surface all over. And then once it doesn't feel sticky anymore, you can flip it over and we'll paint the other side. I'm using a silicone mat underneath my wafer paper here, but if you're not, you can double check to be sure that your paper isn't sticking a few times throughout. The last thing you want is your paper to be stuck to your kitchen counter. So I'm just painting the second side exactly as I did the first one. This time I've decided to start with the eucalyptus. There's really no right or wrong way to do this. Just brush it on and get a nice balance of the colors without oversaturating the paper too much. This is something you'll have to experiment with in your own kitchen. The first few times I made these, I was going between oversaturated and undersaturated. You really just have to play around until you strike the right balance. Once you're happy with your colors, lift off your paper to be sure again that it isn't sticking, and you'll brush this side with cornstarch as well. So I'm just flipping it over here one more time and just giving the back a really light brush with cornstarch again. And then I'm gonna wait just for a few moments until the wafer paper doesn't feel sticky anymore, just a little bit damp. So once it's just a little bit damp, you can go ahead and fold this paper in half lengthwise, which will mark it so that we can cut it right in half. I'm just testing here to see if the paper still feels too sticky. Be patient if it is, it will dry quickly if you just leave it for a few moments. Next, stack your 2 pieces of wafer paper and double check that they're lined up. Then you can begin to cut your leaves. On the template I'm providing for this tutorial, which you can find in the description box below, you can see the general shape of the leaves you're going for, but I am totally freehanding these and feel free to do the same. All I'm doing is cutting a gentle curve on either side to make a leaf shape. Every few leaves you cut, pull them apart to make sure that they're not sticking together. If they are, just separate your wafer paper for a few moments until it feels drier, and then try cutting again. I'm going to use my Dresden tool to vein these leaves, so place them each onto a foam mat that you would use for gum paste. Using the pointier end of your Dresden tool, create a center vein right down the center of your leaf. This is to give it both texture and shape. It's fine if some leaves curl up a little bit and some stay a bit straighter. I'm using quite a bit of pressure here to make sure that I'm getting a good impression. And once I'm all finished, I am placing these on a foam mat to dry. Repeat the same painting process with your 2 remaining pieces of wafer paper. The narrower part at the top will be for shorter leaves, and then the wider part at the bottom will be for medium-sized leaves. So you'll have a nice gradation between smaller and larger leaves this way. Again, you'll dust with cornstarch, flip the paper, and repeat. I put this first piece under a piece of plastic wrap while I painted the second one so that I could cut them both at the same time and the one wouldn't dry out before the other. So I'm just lining these 2 pieces of paper up, and once they are damp but not too sticky, they are ready to cut, and we will start at the narrower end, which will make the small leaves, and make our way to the wider end, which will make the medium leaves. If you think you're going to have trouble freehand cutting leaves, just go ahead and print out the PDF that I've provided, and then you can kind of get a better idea of the shape of the leaf that we're going for here. You can download that and also find all the tools and equipment that I'm using in this tutorial in the description box below. Separate them all, and then we're going to vein them exactly as we did the larger leaves. Allow your leaves to dry until they're no longer damp and they hold their shape well. I've got a piece of 18 gauge paper covered floral wire that I'm going to give a slight bend. I'm going to arrange my leaves now so it's quicker and easier when we assemble in a moment. I'll start with the small leaves at the top and then gradually add larger and larger size leaves as we make our way down the stem. Choose leaves across from one another that are generally the same size and shape. And if the leaves have a little bend at all, they should mostly be bending upwards in a Y shape. To attach the leaves, you'll be using wafer paper glue. It's just white wafer paper pieces that have been microwaved with water in 10-second increments until it's nice and goopy. Use a pointy brush and apply a really small amount of glue to the very tip on the inside of your top leaf. Attach down on the wire just 1 millimeter so that the leaf is just holding onto the wire. Press firmly and hold for a couple seconds and then place it down on your mat. Since these are long leaves and palm fronds are fairly flat, I'm going to build the whole leaf on my work surface. For the remaining leaves, I put the wafer paper glue on the outside of the leaf, again just 1 millimeter in, and then I attach them on top of the stem and give them a really nice firm press once I do so. Continue the same process, working your way down the stem, adding one leaf at a time. Each leaf should have one opposite to it, touching at the stem. You'll have leftover leaves at the end, so you can make a bigger palm frond than I made, or you can make a second one. Please leave me a comment and tell me what you want to learn next. Is it more wafer paper or should we go back to gum paste? It's been a few weeks since we've done that. So leave me a comment and let me know. You should let this dry until the leaves are no longer moving around once you lift up the wire. They should be really nice and firm. Then you can go ahead and use it, and you can see how I did on the Terrazzo cake that we made last week. I'll put a link to that tutorial in the top right corner of this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and please don't forget to head down to the description box below where you can print out your free wafer paper template, which is going to show you the few different sizes that we used today for the wafer paper leaves. If you'd like to see more wafer paper videos, please don't forget to head down and leave me a comment to tell me. And before you head out, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.